From council members facing several issues that have been addressed by the council and very publicly in some ways, to also construction that is raising questions in some areas of town. We got a lot to talk about with San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg, who joins us for today's KSAT Q&A. Mayor, thanks for being here this evening. Let's first start with the issue with District 10 Councilman Clayton Perry. He is now on a sabbatical that he requested to take after his involvement in a hit and run, suspicion of a DWI, though we're still waiting for word on that. Talk a little bit about where we are in this process, because he requested this sabbatical and he is gone until he decides to come back to council. Is that right?
That's correct. I will tell you that first, the only provision within the city charter that permits the city council to remove a member is on the conviction of a crime of moral turpitude. Obviously, there's a criminal investigation underway with respect to what we know happened that night involving Councilmember Perry. That obviously is ongoing. There's no conviction, so the council doesn't have the authority to remove Councilmember Perry. It did take a vote of no confidence, and there was disagreement about whether or not we should formally ask for resignation. I did believe we should do that. Ultimately, the vote was to issue a vote of no confidence, but not the resignation request. Regardless, Councilmember Perry has taken leave, which he is also entitled to do. And because there's not a removal process, he's also entitled to come back when he decides to. I will tell you, though, we are not hesitating with regard to appointing an interim member so that District 10 residents have representation on the council. We're going to be doing that as early as next Thursday. And the application process for the interim District 10 council appointment is open right now, and we expect to have applications in by the beginning of the week.
Why do you think the council should have asked for his resignation?
Well, look, with respect to what we saw on camera, I believe pretty strongly that compassion and accountability are not mutually exclusive concepts. I do hope that Councilmember Perry gets the help that he needs. However, there is also expectations on elected officials and by all of us here that we uphold ourselves to the highest standards. I firmly believe that. And so in the case of a suspected hit and run and the behavior that was caught on camera, I think that rises to the level of needing accountability. Any other member of the community would likely have lost their job under the same circumstances. And so I believe we need to hold ourselves to the highest standard. I do hope that the legal process unfolds fairly and that, again, Councilmember Perry gets the help that he needs. But it also means that we as a community need to hold ourselves accountable.
We're going to have to wait and see what happens with Councilman Perry personally, as well as his position. But I want to know what your message is to not only people in District 10, but the rest of the city when it comes to the effect that his absence on the council, his actions, what impact is that having on day-to-day decisions that the council is trying to make?
I want to assure folks throughout the city and in District 10 specifically, it has no impact on the business of the city moving forward. District 10 will continue to have representation. They have an incredible, hardworking staff that Councilmember Perry has assembled to deal with issues related to constituent services. They have a great team in District 10. Their staff has been working very closely with the community there. All that work will continue. The work of the city has continued with respect to the voting representation that District 10 has on the dais. We expect to have that filled, within a week or so. So things will move forward as a community.
I'm guessing it's a charter issue, but should there be a path to removal? Do you think, whether it's Councilman Perry or something that's going to happen in the future, should the council be able to remove one of its members?
I think the way it's written in the charter is proper. I think that's the way it should be. I do think that that every elected body, whether that's Congress or City Council, should hold itself to a high standard, and that's what we will continue to do here in the city of San Antonio. But again, I think that with respect to being able to remove a member, it's got to be under very limited circumstances. In this case, a conviction of a crime of moral turpitude, I think, is appropriate. Keep in mind, the only supervisors, the only boss of the council member in this community is the voters. The only boss are the voters that voted a particular member in. So they should have the right to determine the future of that seat, with very limited exception, and that one being, again, a crime of moral turpitude.
We want to switch gears now to ask about construction along the St. Mary's Strip. We are still getting a lot of questions about what is the status there, and yes, a lot of frustration from people who live in the area or travel through there about just the numerous detours that are still ongoing. So can you give us a status update on what that project looks like right now and going forward?
First, I'll say I share the frustration of the business owners in that area, and we are doing everything we can to ensure they provide relief. In fact, I talked to the city manager yesterday and repeatedly before that we need to find any possible way to provide some relief to those businesses. It's not just the construction project they've been through. They've been through COVID. They've been through, policy rankling. They've been through a lot of things that have been challenging for any small business owner. Now, what happens moving forward? We are putting the pressure on the contractor to get this job done, which voters approved long ago to be constructed. We are trying everything we can to accelerate that project. Right now, I believe the completion date is in the spring of 2023, which is earlier than we had initially thought when the scope was added just a little while ago. So March 2023 is our tentative finish date. In the meantime, we are trying to accelerate all aspects of this project to get things open and so people have access to it. Moving forward, we don't want to find ourselves in this situation again. Council allocated $400,000 to develop a construction toolkit that allows small business owners basically to cooperate and collaborate with business owners that are going to be impacted by construction on the front end, so nobody's surprised by this and has additional impacts related to construction delays or closures of streets, et cetera. There have been issues with soil erosion issues in that area, but we are going to do everything we can. And as I mentioned, I've worked with city manager and I've been speaking with him to find ways that we can provide some additional relief to the businesses in that area. We're going to work very hard to do that.
All right, quickly before we let you go, I know you gave blood today. It's something you wanted to talk about. Why?
We have a critical blood shortage. We have for a number of years, and this area provides blood resources to a large area beyond even just San Antonio. We are down. Typically, holiday season has a 30% reduction in donations, so we're getting into a very dangerous area with regard to blood supplies for trauma cases, for transfusions, for pregnancies and other high blood volume types of surgeries. So we need people to donate blood. That's number one. The opportunity to have a bigger impact goes up because they have started a Double Your Impact campaign where when you donate blood, you receive points. You can donate those points to the San Antonio Food Bank to provide meals for families in need during the holiday season. Already, donors in San Antonio have provided roughly 35,000 meals during the holiday season. So it's a great time to give blood. All the time is a great time to give blood, donate blood, but particularly we need it badly here in the San Antonio community during the holidays.
Absolutely. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Have a great Thanksgiving, too.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news, weather, and so much more by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. And once again, thanks for watching KSAT.